This timeout is interviewing James Flanagan. James has worked at WXYT, 89X and 92.1 The Edge in Lansing. He has also been a DJ at several clubs including Lipsticks 2, Club X at the State Theater, The Shelter, and St. Andrews Hall. He hosts 3 podcasts and can be found in and around Michigan, enjoying bourbon and DJing.
Jamie, thank you for joining me. I'm happy to see you.
My pleasure.
You're Detroit royalty, man. You're like radio royalty anyways.
Used to be, yeah.
You put in 17 years with 96.3 WDIV.
I did 96.3 WDVD. Yeah, it was the hot AC adult contemporary. Lots of Kelly Clarkson, a lot of Maroon 5.
A lot of music you'd probably rather blow your brains out than have to listen to on a daily basis.
No, it's not, because I've DJ'd the clubs all up and down, every hole in the wall to every major venue in town. And that's not the stuff I play when I do the clubs. No, definitely not.
I could just see them getting down to Kelly Clarkson.
Yeah. The weddings that I do, so I DJ weddings too. So that's the wedding fare. But the club is more the alternative, the retro alternative, industrial gothic stuff. That's more my pleasure seeking jams.
I got to tell you, I've DJ'd weddings too myself, and some of the music they want, you're just like, oh, why, why?
Yeah, I actually had a cool one this weekend. I was at the Colony Club downtown Detroit, and first wedding of the year, and they wanted like Blink-182 and Paramore and Fall Out Boy and just the Sum 41, and it was like, okay.
So you had an elder millennial wedding that you were DJing.
Yeah. So it was a little, and then the dad wanted just all 60s. So it was a crap ton of Rolling Stones and the
Dad
Zombies
rock.
And so.
I mean, that's not bad though. I mean, sure as hell beats Kelly Clarkson in my opinion.
Yes,
but,
it was. We did not go the typical route this last weekend. So that was good.
I always had a rule that when I DJ'd weddings, no chicken dance. I can't do it.
Yeah, hey man, $1,200 on a chicken dinner. I'll play whatever the hell you want me to play.
Yeah, I was working for a lot less because I work with the low income people a lot of the times.
Yeah.
And for $1,200, I'll play the chicken dance on repeat.
And a chicken dinner.
That's pretty much what I have to eat now anyways. I can't eat beef. So here's the thing. Every one of us behind the microphone has a story.
Mm-hmm.
What's your origin story?
Holy crap. Just to getting behind the microphone. I just, it evolved from the clubs actually a little bit more. So the first stuff I did radio was interning at 89X, right when it kicked off. And then when it went 24 hours, and then doing the clubs. And then I was going to U of M in Dearborn, and there was somewhat of a radio station there. They call it a radio station, but it's not really a radio station because it only broadcasts like on campus. It's like a closed circuit thing. There's no antenna. It's like a stereo in the student union blast, and they call it a radio station. But they manipulated it really well because they were actually reporting to the college music journals and alternative press, and so they were a reporting station. But it was really just a stereo pointed out the window of an office in the student union. And that was the radio station. But it was really cool. So that's how I got involved with that, because I was DJing the clubs. The nights we were doing were 89X nights. And so the 89X DJs were there. And then the one dude was like, oh, the interns they suck and I can't get people. I'm like, I'll come and, pull your records and drink coffee with you in the morning, So, that's how the radio part of it started. The DJing itself, and that's like behind the mic. My buddy, he was a singer in an 80s band here in Detroit. They were called Beer on the Penguin. They played in the circuit with Toby Red and Second Self and Rhythm Core and So it's so Toby Red, if you're not familiar, the drummer was this dude named Chad Smith, and he's in the Red Hot Chili Peppers now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, were you familiar with Toby Red at all? Yeah, is that
not outside of the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
All right. So, we've known Chad since, God was a boy. So it was, well, we knew Toby Red before Chad was in the band. And so my buddy, was the lead singer for Beer on the Penguin. So we were like the younger group of that, and then he went to Specs Howard. And then to make some money while he was going to Specs, he started DJing some weddings. And I was like helping him out. And then I started DJing weddings, and then we started our own business, and then that parlayed into the clubs. And so that was all, back there, the mid 80s, 89 is when I really started, DJing. That's when we started our own company, was like in 89. So 33 years, and that morphed into the college radio, and then a gig at 92.1 The Edge in Lansing, back here for talk radio at 1270 XYT with Mark Scott. Yeah, if anybody knows old Detroit talk radio, man, Mark Scott was amazing. Excelsior. He was a dude, man. And then from XYT, just being a board op there, I got the gig at DVD because it was like, I was like, radio's a beast. And if you've ever seen the movie Private Parts with Howard Stern, the thing about the movie, it's like every he's like got a U-Haul truck attached to his car and he's going to another station. That's totally true. That's like so entirely radio. It's so transient. And I'm like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it here in Detroit. If it doesn't happen for me in the city, it's not going to happen. And it happened for me. I got lucky. So, so that was kind of how that evolved. So it was a lot of work and parts.
Doesn't sound like you had too much issue breaking into the industry. Did you?
It was luck. I mean, it's a little bit of luck and persistence. Getting that gig in Lansing at 92.1 The Edge in Lansing. So those were the people that started 89X, and then they kind of started this Edge franchise. There were Edge stations all around the country. They were like, they kind of sold the package, and the programming and all that. So it was, all the people behind that, Stuart Frankie and, Mike Halloran and all the people that were behind the Greg St. James, behind the origination of 89X. They packaged the concept and basically sold it as a franchise almost, so that was that. And so that was that group of people. So getting on the air at the Edge was what led me to, being able to be on the air here in the city. It's funny because at the Edge, there was Mark Copeland, there was Scott Vertical, there was Allison and Kristen were doing mornings. Sandy was a program director. Sandy Horowitz. He was a crazy son of a bitch. And he's the one I had to convince for the job. And so I would bug him, and he was like, in a smaller market like that, the program director will do an air shift. So I knew when he would be on the air. So I would call and catch him on the air and he couldn't avoid my call. So I would call, and what was something he would do, the old phones, you would push two buttons at once and your two callers would be on the air at the same time. And he would put the two buttons and he would go, hello. And he'd step away and he'd let the two callers interact with each other. And so they both thought they were talking to the DJ, and it was usually just a mess and usually kind of funny because they weren't getting the response they wanted and they would get pissed off. Right.
Yeah.
So he did that to me. And I kind of was like, hey, I figured out what was going on. And I started messing with the person and it just cracked him up. And after he goes, dude, come on down for an interview. We'll do this, cause I made him laugh, and so that was my break. I was just, he set me up for failure and I made him laugh. And that was the foot in the door. But I had to be persistent. I was calling him. And finally he's like, ah, crap. If you come down and interview you'll stop calling me at least.
Right. No, I totally understand that. It is definitely annoy the station manager until they're willing to actually talk to you.
Yeah.
I had an incident or similar instance when I moved to Tucson. I had been in doing this for so many years, and I stalked the station manager. Like, I made friends with him on Facebook. I started emailing him. I wanted in, I gave him old shows, tapes and stuff, commercials that I had made, things like that. I just kept throwing crap at him left and right. And I tracked where he was, and he was actually like 2 streets over from where I was living. So I just went and showed up. And it was at that point, he was like, all right, 2 weeks, come down to the station for an interview.
Perfect.
Yeah. I didn't get the job though. Only reason. So the only reason
I did get a lovely restraining order.
I wish I would have framed it. No, I didn't get the job only because there was someone else there that had more of a fan base because they were on the indie radio that was there. They had more followers and whatnot in the city, and I couldn't be mad at that.
No.
Here I am, a Detroit boy, fish out of water in Tucson, and then they got a hometown kid that's ready to go and got a built-in fan base. I like I said, I couldn't be mad at that.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
So, what was your oh shit moment? That moment when you finally realized I made it in radio?
I was cruising into the Fisher building and doing my shift there. It was just, it's when my nieces wanted to come and see me on the air. Just sit, in the hallway and watch me through the window. And it's like, it's just your Uncle Jamie. It's but they wanted to come to the Fisher building. And I that's the thing that I miss about being on the air was the building itself. I can live without the Maroon 5 and the Kelly Clarkson.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But the Fisher building, my dad and all of his sisters and my grandfather all worked there. My grandfather worked maintenance there. And then back in the day, this was early 50s, I want to say, mid 50s, early 50s, before the Korean War. My dad was there, and there was this bar, a gentleman's club, which is not like gentlemen's clubs today. It was a gentleman's club, basically a cigar bar called the Recess Club. And it was at the top of the shorter tower. And my dad worked there. One aunt worked the coat check. Another was a cigarette girl. And the third aunt was the elevator operator, because you actually had the elevator operator. Aunt Teresa, she just passed this last year. She was 96. She was a nun.
I'm sorry to hear that she passed. I needed to qualify that because I was just going to say I'm sorry to hear that when you said she was a nun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, she's she had a good run, man. She was an awesome lady. So they all worked there, and my grandfather worked there. My grandfather passed the year before I was born, so I never met him. So I always kind of felt connected to him and to, my dad worked in the building. So it's I felt, it made me feel connected. And so that's the only thing I miss about working working for 96.3, was that connection to working in that building on the weekends and being quiet and just kind of walking the same halls they walked. It was cool.
Well, there's a lot of history with the Fisher building just as a building itself, and now you add in the familial ties. And I get it, man. I got to ask though, how much of a gut punch was it when 89X went country?
Oh, they've sucked for years.
You know what? Okay, yeah, I can't disagree. So I remember listening. I remember the Edge. I remember the Edge, and I remember the day that they went from Edge to 89X. Like when it was the cutting edge. It was the cutting edge. It was St. James and Darren Ravel. Yep.
Darren's back in town, and because Darren was on 96.3. Oh, and all those people I name dropped, Mark Copeland, Vertical, Allison, Kristen, they all ended up at 96.3 from the edge. They were all at the edge. So it was this whole edge family, everybody except Sandy, ended up at 96.3. So at St. James, it was his brainchild, and he brought on Darren Ravel, and it was the two of them. And it was then they started the whole thing on 99.5. It was DTX. I think it started there, and then they took that idea part-time to 89X, and then it flipped to 89X.
Yeah. Well, I remember because I would have been a kid in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I honestly remember listening to the radio and hearing the Double Edge weekends where they would do back-to-back songs.
Love them.
Yeah.
So Darren Ravel is funny because, like I said, I do weddings and parties. Darren's one of the I got two companies that book me right now because I teach high school full time too.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to ask you about that too.
I got 40 jobs. Oh, lazy man, 4 job. It's that's Saturday Night Live's anyway. But one of the DJ companies that books me is Love Plus One. That's Darren Ravel's company. It's funny how he kind of came into ownership of that, because another big club DJ, because Darren's been in LA for, the last 15, 20 years. He's just been back for like 3 or 4. There was this cat named Urban Chris. He used to be the house DJ at Diamato's in downtown Royal Oak and the 4th Street, the Royal Oak Music Theater, when it was called the 4th Street and it was a nightclub. He was like the house DJ there for years, and he had a just Urban Chris DJs, and he tried to expand, and he did a really good job, and he got the government's attention, and he got deported because he's Canadian and he was here illegally for all those years.
Ouch.
So he called Darren. He's like, Darren, he goes, can you come back from LA and run my DJ company? Because I got deported. And he actually won a Grammy. He's got Urban Chris had a credit on Eminem's the 8 Mile soundtrack. And so he's got a Grammy. And they still deported him. Maybe that's why they deported him. I don't know. So, but he got back to Canada. He's in Canada, and he's like, and Darren's here running the DJ company for him till he could get, all his immigration stuff sorted out. And then I guess once you get deported, they're less forgiving and willing to have you come back. In any way,
I wonder why.
Yeah. And so finally Chris just said, screw it. And he's just stayed in Canada. He's like, Darren, you have a company, go ahead. And he opened a barn venue. So he's DJ, he's still, doing weddings, and his wife's a photographer, and they have this urban field house there. And now Darren's running the DJ company here. And he was like, he goes, you should do gigs for me. And I'm like, well, you need to pay me. And he's like, I will. And I'm like, game on.
Well, if you're looking for world. Any new DJs, I know 1 or 2.
Oh, yeah. The people are dying. So my other company's dying for DJs. So we'll talk.
Yeah, I'll send you a name. It's not me. I won't do that. Not anymore. I've never been big on people.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. But I do know a guy who would be perfect, so I'll slide you his name and whatnot.
Yeah, Elite DJs out of Warren. That's the other company, Elite Wedding Company, and Love Plus One. They both book me. So, but yeah, I know for sure Elite's looking for people. I don't know, Darren's particular.
Well, understandable.
He's fussy.
Okay,
no, but they love the club. Anyway.
So you're also a teacher, as you said. You're a teacher at a Michigan high school. We won't say which one, just in case you need buffer or anything like that.
I don't care. No, I don't care.
Okay. Well, you're a journalism advisor.
Yeah.
Was teaching something you always envisioned for yourself?
Yeah, kind of. Both of my parents were teachers. My mom was a librarian at the high school. My dad was the band director. So it was pretty much the plot of The Music Man. So they were they were both teachers, and they had a pretty good life, and they had a pretty good wage, and it was a pretty good gig, and it was always something, because I was chasing the radio thing, and I was chasing the DJ thing, and paying my way through college. I started as a business manager, like right out of high school. I got a gig at Domino's Pizza. in 1984, the year they won the World Series, and they bought the Tigers in the same years, and it was just insane. And Domino's was just blowing up. And I was in the managerial track there, and so I took a year off of school after high school, started going to college as a business major. And I'm like, well, this is nothing like how the real world is working right now. And so I got turned off to the whole business major thing. And but I still wanted to get a degree. And then I kind of fell into the teaching, just kind of seeing what my parents were doing. And I figured it would be a good backup, but I was chasing the radio thing. And then, it was it's like, yeah, radio's a monster. I'm going to get a degree and I'm going to teach. And if I can do radio around it, then I will. So it's always been an option. So yeah, it's always kind of been a thing because of my folks.
So I got to ask, as a journalism advisor, what principles do you try to instill in the youth regarding journalism?
So you broke up there. So as a journalism advisor, what?
What principles do you try to instill in the youth regarding journalism?
Oh, it's tell the story. I hate TV journalism. It's all just salacious nonsense. I try to, it's what we do here, and it's people, right? And it's telling people's story and helping people tell stories. That's the thing. It's people. And that's what I try to instill in my kids. It's to find the story. What person does this matter to? What person does this impact? And that's the story, and that's what you should be telling and writing about.
Do they understand why responsible journalism is important?
They're still idealistic. Yeah. So they do. They're young and they're idealistic about it. And they know that, by telling these stories that, it exposes the flaws in society, and it exposes the beautiful things in society. And it can help, correct injustices and, getting all lofty and stuff. But, it really can.
Now, one of the things that I was curious of too, when I saw that is, do they see how the media often distorts facts to rile up the masses or just to sell products?
Oh my God. Yeah. We do that all the time. Yeah. We just, we talk about that all the time. It's like, what kind of fake news was on the TV yesterday? It's just like, what a pile of crap was that, because they live in, and I think it enrages them as much as it does us. It's that clickbait. It's this clickbait society. It's like trying to sucker you in. It's all clickbait, and I think they're fed up with it as much as old farts are. The get off my lawn people are, and so hopefully they can do something to rectify it.
Now, consumerism seems to have taken over journalism and broadcast media, as we were just talking about. It's seeping its way into podcasting, too. Is there, or will there ever be, such a thing as free media? Or are we destined to be chained and tethered to corporate goods and services dictating what gets said?
Oh, man. It's the way I talk off mic and off the podcast is way different. I'm a little off color. But I know that it's like, all right, it's recorded and it's out there. And I do need to be a little mindful that, I do work, as a government employee and for a public school, I do need to be a little mindful of that. But this whole cancel culture and, it just taking somebody to task for a joke they made 20 years ago in a different time and in a different world. And, you can't direct this movie today because you made, a gay joke 20 years ago. It's when Twitter was Twitter didn't even exist, or wherever that joke got laid out. It's astounding to me. I don't know how to get around it. People are too damn sensitive. Yeah, I don't know how to get around it.
If you want, like, I can explain something that I often use on my show. It's what I like to call the pendulum argument.
All right.
The pendulum argument is basically this. The pendulum has been pulled back in one direction for so long over many, many decades.
Mm.
And now that things are starting to change, it's been let go. It's not held in that one position anymore, and it's swinging. The only way that we are going to ever find peace is we have to let that pendulum, unfortunately, swing all the way back to the other side until it finally stops and rests in the center.
Okay.
I think we're in the backswing of the pendulum right now.
I think it swung the other way and stuck in the wall over there, and we're just screwed.
Could have been.
That's it. It's all over. It's stuck in the wall.
I'm not a big fan. Like, I run commercials for small business, and I don't play big names on the when it comes to music. You know, I play independent artists because that's what I feel needs the attention. Coke and Pepsi have already gotten their money. Yep. You know. Yeah. And so that's one of my big contentions with mainstream radio is that, you know, it seems to be, I get why, because there's a lot of paychecks and stuff involved and whatnot. But like, I just wish they'd focus on the small business a little more, open those doors up and let them have some access to the same thing the big guys are getting, you know?
Yeah, Canadian radio does a much better job of that. I listen to the CBC out of Windsor, mainly the station I listen to. It's whatever 89.9. That's mainly what I listen to, just because, you know, terrestrial American radio is just it's just
yeah,
it's trite. I can't. It's hard to listen to.
I typically listen to 94.7. I get maybe 3 songs and then 20 minutes of commercials, and I'm like, nah, I can't do this.
Right. Yeah. Well, the CBC, there's no commercials on the CBC, so it was cool this morning. God, what did they play? They played Bjork and Bronski Beat, and then like some indigenous music and. You know, they play classical music during the day. So like from 9 until 3, it's classical music. But the drive time in the morning, drive time in the afternoon, amazing stuff. And the classical stuff is pretty cool too.
Well, yeah. Okay, so speaking of podcasting, you host 3 different podcasts.
I do.
Animal Talk, Man Cave Happy Hour, and Detroit's City of Champions.
Yes.
Each one is vastly different from the other.
Yeah.
So give us a rundown of all 3.
Animal Talk is it was a radio show, and that was one of the shows that I produced when I was at 1270 WXYT. It was a part of the How To Weekend. It was Rick Bloom doing financial and Mike Wendland doing tech. And then Glenn Hagee was the handyman, America's handyman. And then there was a plant show, and Animal Talk was a pet show. And I was helping run shows on the weekend. And they were like, "Hey, Jamie, it's like nobody at the station will help us record commercials or anything. Can you help us out?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Hey, when the show's on, if you ever want to crack the mic and be involved, feel free." And I'm like, "Are you sure about that?" And so Animal Talk has gone through several incarnations since then. At one point, we were syndicated, and we were on 50 stations around the country, and on a couple of big dogs, KMOX and KFAB and KSL in St. Louis, and then like 40 other itty bitty stations all over everywhere. Hawaii, Alaska, just everywhere. But we had like 5 or 6 big heritage stations, which was pretty cool. And then 1270 here in Detroit. When they flipped sports, we were still doing our show, and we were still syndicated on 49 other stations because they dropped Animal Talk when they flipped sports, XYT back when they did that. And so we kept working out of their studios and just, you know, syndicating the show. And radio is a beast, and it's changed from that was like the early 90s till now. And in the show, we connected with a syndicator, and it atrophied, and they were supposed to be getting us new affiliates, and they brought us on because we had these 50 affiliates, and they didn't do jack for us, and they let the show atrophy, which made me violently angry. And then when we were down to about 10 affiliates, they're like, "Oh, we don't need you anymore." Like, you guys are a bunch of dicks, you know? And it's like, so yeah, that kind of sucked. But so at the beck and call of things, and so it took a little bit of a hiatus. 7 years later, I brought it back as a podcast because I have these boxes of CDs of the shows, and we have like guests like Betty White, Dick Van Patten, George Plimpton, the Crocodile Hunter, Bo Derek, Jerry Mathers and Lassie, the dog, John Provost, Timmy from Lansing, just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Sylvester Stallone's mom, she had these pair of dogs, these min pins that slept on carpets from the Middle East, and so they were psychic. She was convinced they were psychic. That was so much fun, but they did, because it was like right during a presidential election, and they did predict correctly the election. It was amazing.
Broken clock is right twice a day. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So it was funny. So I've had all these shows. I'm like, I got to put these out, and so I was like, I started doing some new content and putting out the old shows as a podcast. So Animal Talk lives on like that. There's I just got an email. There's All Things Great and Small on PBS. It's a period piece. It's in their second season. One of the girl is like an Academy. She won an Oscar 2-3 years ago. I'm supposed to interview her. I'm like, it'll be my first Academy Award winning interview. It's like, I'm pretty excited. I forget her name now. I probably should figure out what her name is. So Animal Talk is still going on, and I do interviews with like authors and things like that now. We'll do some, emails and like a vet and a dog trainer. I'll have people in, like people that know what they're talking about, and we help people with their pets. And now, because podcasts, a lot of people is like, oh, I'm going to do a talk show, and people are going to call in. I'm like, it's a podcast. That doesn't happen. I try to coach people with podcasts, and there's like, yeah, it's not going to work. So it's interviewing guests and people, political action groups that have pet issues and things. So that's what Animal Talk is now. And the Man Cave Happy Hour I was walking down the street with my wife, said, "Let's do, you're cranky. Let's take a walk." And I'm like, "All right." She goes, "Grab a bourbon and grab a cigar." And I'm like, "I knew I married you for a reason." And so I'm walking down the street with a cigar and a glass of bourbon, and I'm like, "I wish I knew more about these things." She goes, and I'm like, "I want to start a podcast about these." And she's like, "Well, do it." And so I look up and I check the name. I'm like, I'm going to call it it's like, I don't know, hanging out in the man cave or man cave. And it's like a Man Cave Happy Hour. She's like, "I like that." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." She doesn't like anything. So I like that. So I text my buddy Matt, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to do a podcast called Man Cave Happy Hour. You want to be on it?" And he's like, no other explanation. He's like, "Yes." And so 3 years ago, we started the Man Cave Happy Hour. And it's like, because Matt and I, we love these things, but we don't know about them. So we bring people in to teach us. And then, so we talk about independent spirit entrepreneurs. We talk to them, and like we talk to the big dogs, like the master distiller at Jack Daniels. We had him on, Chris, we had him on the show. And then just yesterday, Greg from there's a distillery in I'm sipping on the old fashioned now from Watershed Distillery in Ohio. They came up and brought me some bourbon, and we talked about the water. I need a refill, and we were talking about the Watershed Distillery in Ohio, and how they're going about getting their name out there and getting their product out there. So that's the Man Cave, where we learn about those things. The third one, I met this guy at an art fair, and he was selling these books, and it's called Detroit City of Champions. He wrote this trilogy of books. His name's Charles Avison. And he told you, I was standing there in his booth, and he's telling me the story, and he's like so excited. So do you know when the Tigers won their first World Series?
Many, many years ago.
It was 1935. Do you know when the Red Wings won their first Stanley Cup?
The first one?
Yep.
No.
It was 1935. Do you know when the Lions won their first championship? And probably their last one.
I'm going to go with 1935, Jamie.
1935. And so 1935 is just freaking astounding. It's like, that's the book, Detroit City of Champions. And there's three of them that he wrote. So there were 33 championships in Detroit. Gar Wood in boat racing, Walter Hagen in golf. The Detroit Police Sharpshooters won a national competition. The world's checker champion was from Detroit. Seabiscuit ran the Sandinista Classic, right? That movie Seabiscuit is all about the Sandinista Classic. The very first Sandinista Classic was run in what year do you think?
1935. What I'm hearing is that the Tigers and the Lions have a shot in 2035.
They do. I think they do. So it's the horse that won the Sandinista Classic in 35 was Sukar, a horse from Detroit. So it's all these stories, and it's all the people, the players, the owners, the fans, the teams, and it's just there's so many stories to tell. And everything in sports, if it happened before World War II, everybody just kind of poo-poos it. It's like it doesn't exist. You got Babe Ruth, you got Lou Gehrig, everybody else sucks, that's it. Right. But it's not true. It's the people on these teams, the stories are just astounding and amazing. So Charles had all this energy, and so that's it. He's unfolding those stories to me. And I'm not a sports guy. I know nothing about sports, but I love history and I love the city of Detroit. And I think these are stories that need to be told. And again, it's the people, right? And the funny thing about it, Joe Louis didn't win. He was not the champion. He was supposed to have a championship fight that year. He was supposed to fight Max Baer, and Max Baer lost the title before the fight with Joe, and so he fought Max, but it wasn't for the title, and so it took him another 3 years to rearrange the fights and get the title shot. But he did have the most amazing year in 1935, Joe Louis. 1935 is what made Joe Louis the icon that he is.
So then I got to ask, what makes 1935 so special? Like what was the magic that was happening in that year?
Yeah. What was in the water? I don't know, man. Let's get a barrel of it.
Well, it wasn't lead.
It might've been. Yeah, very well could have been. So, yeah.
So I got to ask, because I know the Man Cave Happy Hour, it does travel, or at least it did. You would go to lounges and pubs and distilleries and stuff and try to do the show live there. Mm-hmm. Had you stopped doing that when COVID came around, or did COVID kind of put a big hamper in what you were trying to do? Yeah,
COVID put a pin in everything. We were speaking in 1935. Joe Louis's family, and then a couple of spirit entrepreneurs out of New England, Maine, I think, actually, launched Joe Louis Bourbon. And we were supposed to have a big launch party with them. The Man Cave was going to help host this big launch party for Joe Louis Bourbon downtown Detroit at the Detroit Shipping Company. And then COVID hit. So everything got canceled. But we started doing like a regular weekly happy hour drinking with Joe Louis, like for the first, throughout that whole first summer and into the winter with Joe Louis Bourbon. That was funny. So yeah, it really did put a pin in it. But we're back out and we're back doing things. We have our own studio, so we do a lot of things in studio. The Man Cave, we interviewed a couple of cats from Tel Aviv. They're in Israel. It was the first whiskey distiller in Israel. Land of Milk and Honey is the name of the whiskey.
Good name.
And so yeah, so it was fun. So it was like 7 at night, or no, it was 11 in the morning for us. It was 7 at night for them, or something crazy like that. Some big time jump. And so yeah, we were drinking bourbon in the morning to talk to them in Tel Aviv. So yeah, we do a lot of that stuff in studio when the guests are remote.
I gotta say, I gotta fight every urge inside of me to not name this interview Jamie Flanagan Pets His Pussy Live.
I know this cat is like, Persian cat is like, he's a little monster. He just won't leave me alone.
Got one too. I lock him out of the basement when I do interviews because otherwise he would be up on my desk trying to get my attention.
Yeah, it's he was ignoring me for 2 hours before I came down here. He's like, oh, now you're at your desk.
Well, we're going with that whole clickbait.
Let me mess with you. Oh yeah.
Jamie Flanagan pets his pussy.
That's it. That'll work.
All right. So you gave me a little more backstory on Animal Talk. So the next question really doesn't affect, but I do want to at least say that it seems like your give back effort, because you seem to really care about animals and trying to educate and inform and entertain in the whole thing. The original question was going to be how and why did it come to be, but you already answered that. So we're going to move on.
All right.
Tell me about the PBS NewsHour and how you became involved with it.
That's through school. So yeah, like I teach at Fraser High School, and I do journalism, but print. I do the newspaper, I do broadcast journalism, I do the yearbook, speech class, and then a couple sections of English 12. One man, 6 preps. It's a ton of fun.
And you're probably only paid as one teacher.
Oh yeah. So, but part of the broadcast, the PBS NewsHour launched this thing called the Student Reporting Labs, and I've been working with them for good 10 years now. And at first, there was only like about 25 schools around the country doing this. There's probably about 200 now, and there's 3 here in Michigan. But there's 4 because a Detroit school came on this year, 2 years ago. But so we work with mentors in Washington, D.C. And so my kids create content that goes on, when it's like, oh, we want the young people's voice, right? Because so they're trying to connect with the younger audience and then giving the kids their voice. And so, we've done that. But I've been able to go to Washington 2 or 3 times for like teacher conferences, like, just the 20, 30, 50 journalism teachers around the country getting together, brainstorming in the summer about what kind of stories and what kind of topics we're going to help guide our kids through in the next year. And part of that workshop is creating pieces ourselves, doing what we make our kids do. And one of the pieces that I created made the big show. They ran it on the NewsHour, which was cool. So yeah.
It sounds like it's similar to what I saw in high school, where it was Channel 1, I think it was. Where you had young people, high school age, or just out of high school, that were reporting news stories. And so I'm happy to see that that's still a thing.
Yeah, it's cool. It's they do some serious journalism. It's neat. It's saying these kids are leaving school and they got PBS credit on their resume.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, people would kill for that on the resume. You got no idea. How'd you get a D on that? You're gonna put a lever into it.
So I got a series of questions here that are going to jump back and forth between radio and podcasting now.
All right.
What was your favorite part of radio?
Oh, my favorite part of radio. That was goofing around in Lansing with the Edge crew.
What's your favorite part of podcasting?
The free bourbon. Doing it with my friends. With the free bourbon. Yes.
Yeah. Free is the best price to pay.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Least favorite part of radio?
Kelly Clarkson. Kelly Clarkson.
Final answer. Okay. Least favorite part of podcasting?
Oh God. I don't know. There's things that bug me. It's nothing about my podcast. It's running the studio and people not taking the advice you give them. Thinking it's like, okay, you came to me for advice and then not listening to me. That's my least favorite part.
Isn't that how giving advice usually goes, though?
Yeah.
I have
a parent.
I have a standing rule with my friends: don't ask my opinion, because I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
All right. So, favorite interview you've gotten to do, either for podcasting or radio?
Oh God. There's 3 on Animal Talk that were just the John Provost, the guy that played Timmy on Lassie. I had set up the interview and I didn't tell my co-host. We had a celebrity guest. He's from TV. He's from TV a while ago, and we're gonna play "What's My Line." And I asked him, I was like, "Hey, we cool? You want to play like What's My Line?" I'm not gonna tell my co-host who you are, and we'll try to figure out who you are. He's like, "Oh my God, that'd be fun, yeah." And so we did "What's My Line," and so and he played along, and it went great. So that was one of my favorite interviews. Kevin Meaney, the comedian. We interviewed him twice, once on the phone. And then he was at Mark Ridley's. He came into Detroit and he was playing Mark Ridley's. And I was like, I messaged, I'm like, hey, you're in Detroit. I go, if you're not doing anything, we're recording the show this afternoon. He's like, yeah, sure. He goes, I'll come in studio. He goes, He goes, I need a way there. I go, well, we'll send a car for you. The car was our intern Jason, and just his beat up car with all kinds of sandwich wrappers and stuff. So we sent him a car. Kevin, he gave us crap about that. So having Kevin in studio and just being funny and awesome and wonderful, that was like the best. And then the other one that I really, really loved was George Plimpton. And he wrote the novel called The Paper Lion. That then they turned it into the movie with the guy from MASH, AA.
Alan Arkin.
No, yeah.
You said AA.
Yeah. Is that Adam Arkin?
Alan.
Yeah. So the guy from MASH, but Paper Lion. So George Plimpton wrote that. He was a participatory journalist. His voice was just so cool, and was that something I found out? And we found out after the interview. I was mesmerized by this. That well, he was there when Robert Kennedy was shot, because he was like on he toured around with Kennedy because they went to college together and they were buddies, and George kind of wrote stuff for him. And he was there when he got shot, but he's one of the guys that tackled Sirhan as he was trying to get away. So I didn't know that about him. I was like, dude, you are the man. I mean, it's an awful tragedy and everything, but I was just very in awe of that. And then just that dude in his voice, he was like so cool. Anyway, so those are because it's hard to narrow it down to one, but those are my three faves.
All right, now this one is going to go no names needed if you really want to go. Least favorite interview. Someone should just shit the bed on you.
I don't know. We kind of poked the pooch on the whole thing. There's this guy, he's a cat trainer. And it was in the middle of COVID. And I was like, hey, can you come on and talk about, because we thought COVID was ending. It was one of those 3 or 4 times we thought it was going to end. And we're like, hey, come on, talk about how to acclimate not being at home with your cat 24/7. How's that? And how to deal with your cat through COVID, right? And training behavior issues that come up. We're going to talk about that. And I had just invited a new veterinarian on the show. And they were kind of talking a lot. and so it was kind of like almost like a round table, and Galaxy thought he was going to be interviewed, this cat person. And he was a little perturbed, and he didn't think we were funny. He's wrong, because we're very, very funny.
I tell my wife the same thing. You're wrong. I'm funny.
It's yeah. So that one, it was kind of, our fault that, my fault. I didn't control the interview as well as I should have, or the situation and the what turned into more of a roundtable. But dude, roll with the punches, man.
Yeah. I mean, but then again,
he's not that, his show got canceled 5 years ago. Fucking get over yourself, dude.
The thing that I've come to realize from doing this is, I mean, when it comes to the entertainment industry, the show must go on. You have to roll with whatever fucking punch gets thrown your way. And not only do you have to roll with it, but you have to basically tumble and pop up and go, ta-da, like nothing.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, a lot of radio guys don't see the legitimacy in podcasting or internet radio. All right, it's been changing, but it's still seen as, oh, well, you guys are just playing with microphones in your mom's basement.
And why does every person, when they lose their radio job, start a bloody podcast?
Because they can,
right? And then here's the thing: it's like, and what do they do on their podcast? They do the exact same damn thing that got them fired from their job in the first place. They don't understand it. The problem is radio, and coming from a radio guy. But I had a unique perspective of, my show kind of got pushed out, and we were looking for a way to reinvent and redo and do something new. And I kind of got it right from that college radio and kind of that grassroots and doing it on your own and listening to people. But most radio people, they don't understand it. They're trying to do radio on a podcast, and guess what, Bright Eyes? It's not the same thing. And the crap you do there isn't going to work here. It's different. It's a different animal, and they don't understand it. That's the problem.
there's a weird blend that you can get away with, and I like to think that I'm getting away with it because I broadcast live on Friday nights, and then I chop the first hour, and that's my podcast, and then there's the recorded version of it, and it seems to work. I don't know why it works, because I'm pretty much I'm a zoo crew at night.
Okay.
We're wild. We talk about crazy shit, and it works. And I've had a modicum of success from it. Yeah. And it's interesting because a lot of people were like, you should be on the radio. I was like, they wouldn't let me on the radio. No. And if they did, what you guys would get wouldn't be worth it.
Right. Yeah.
I can't be tethered. All right. So you do voice work too.
I try. That's
mostly commercials.
Yeah. It was like when the animal talk was in its full swing, we had some endorsements, and I did some tracking for stuff. I'd love to do some more, but again, there's only 24 hours in a day between the 3 podcasts and teaching and DJing, and it's like, if I retire from teaching, I might chase down more voice work.
Fair.
It's on my website, so if anybody wants, if they're like, "Hey, I love your voice, I want you to do it," I'll do it. But it's nothing super active.
We'll post links and stuff with that too. Mm-hmm. Podcasting has grown over the years. I got started in 2007. It's grown leaps and bounds since then. What changes have you seen or experienced for the better or worse with podcasting?
For the worst, it's like it's the money grab that's happening with all the big dogs. And it's like, well, what celebrity can we get to, and it's like, because somebody was like, somebody's like, I want to do a podcast, and I'm like, I need advice starting, and I'm like, all right, I'll advise you. What do you need? I'll give you a free half hour of my time. And they're like, well, I want to do, a talk, callers and talk. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work. This is a podcast. And he's like, well, it works for Joe Rogan. I go, well, Joe Rogan has been on 3 successful TV shows and announcing sports things and has a crap ton of celebrity friends. When you get all that, yes, you will be successful. Until then, you need to have different goals, and it's, you have to measure success differently. So, well, because I asked the person what was their goal, and it was, to make money and get a lot of listeners. And I'm like, well, you need different goals because those things may come.
You can do one of the two.
Yeah. So it's interesting, but these, just everybody, the celebrities coming in and just, drowning that. And I think, there's only 24 hours in a day for people to listen to things. And I think it corners out some of the grassroots people, which is kind of a bummer. So you just have to put on a better show and be a better product, and people will find you and enjoy it. So, so it's, there's more opportunity, and the pricing is better, and the technology is better now. It's getting better and easier to do it and do it well.
Yeah, I agree. What changes have you seen for the better?
Well, yeah, just the technology getting better and more reasonably priced.
Yeah.
To do it.
Well, I mean, hell, most people, you can get a decent microphone and this is all you need.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of them are free out there. I don't advise any of the free ones, but but if you want to start, it's always a great way to start.
Yeah. All right. Tell me a typical day in the life of Jamie Flanagan.
Oh, it's time to make the donuts. I get up, I go to school, and hang out after school and grade some papers, and then maybe edit an episode, and then run. If I got a studio because we rent out our studio to other podcasts to record, so we help people record. So I might go run a show, or I might go have a show of my own to do. So it's usually a little bit of podcasting. There's at least 2 nights a week spent on podcasting stuff, and then back at it, just hanging with the wife, playing with the cat, drinking a beer in the hot tub,
sleep for about 2 hours a night,
and then do it all over.
Yeah. All right. So since you do offer advice. I did want to ask for anyone that sees this that might be an aspiring radio DJ or podcaster, what is one piece of solid advice for anyone wanting to get into radio or podcasting?
Don't take no for an answer. If no's the answer, find another way. And so and kind of like with radio, it would be the answer might be podcasting. So yeah, don't take no for an answer. Until the restraining order comes out, just keep trying.
And then you frame it.
Yeah, and then frame it.
Okay, Jamie, it's time to play interview roulette.
All righty, let's do it.
At the beginning of the interview, I had you pick 5 numbers. These are the questions that corresponded to them. Question number 1, what is the best thing about your life?
Oh, the best thing about my life, my family. The wife, sweet. The kid, the cat, and the my siblings, and my mom. Yeah.
Good, solid answer.
Oh, okay, maybe not the cat.
You looked over like that. I was like, oh, the wife is standing right there.
He's being a dick. All right. Anyway.
Number 27, Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, and why?
Oh, I just Starbucks. I'm a junkie for the caramel macchiato. If I'm doing, it wouldn't be Dunkin' Donuts. It's got to be Tim Hortons, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Tim Dunkin's is
Jimmy Dunkin' is the fallback.
Yeah.
They say America runs on Dunkin', and I'm like, you're full of shit.
Nah. Timmy's.
All right. If you could read the mind of one person currently alive, who would it be?
Oh my gosh. My wife or Donald Trump?
Okay, why? I understand why with the wife.
Got to figure that crap out. Actually, probably that's like. I want to know some of the damn answers, man. And he probably found out some pretty interesting answers when he dove into what he did. But being the outsider coming in the way he was, he probably found out some pretty cool stuff.
Theoretically, then any president would be.
Yeah, but he'd be the outsider coming in. I think he would have a unique perspective in his brain on it.
Somehow I think Obama learned more about aliens. That's all I want. That's the only answer I want.
I might go with Obama. I might go, yeah, because he was there longer. So he probably got more of the dirt.
All right. I kind of think I might know what your answer is going to be to this one, but I'm going to ask it anyways. If your name was on one product, what would you want it to be on and why?
Oh, yeah. I think we might have to do a bourbon.
That's exactly what I thought.
I'm thinking, yeah. We got some friends. This Greta Harper is the brand rep for the Midwest for Maker's Mark. Mm-hmm. There could very well be a Maker's barrel in the man cave Jamie Flanagan future.
Well, I'm going to say this: it needs to come in flannel, because you got to be able to work in Flanagan's flannel somehow.
There you go. In the little bag, it comes in a little flannel bag.
Yeah, there you are. And then 175. Because that was 69, by the way. You're
fair enough.
You're 12-year-old. Yeah. 175. Were you voted most likely for anything in your class yearbook?
We had mock elections, and I was voted class punk rocker. Me and Mary Lou Penna, Penna's Banquet Hall. It's funny because I'll do weddings there every once in a while. I'll say, hey, Mary Lou. Like, hey. So yeah, we were class punk rockers.
And do you feel you lived up to it?
Oh, yeah. I think everybody else kind of caught up with me in the music eventually. Yeah.
All right, Jamie, that's all I've got for you. Tell them where they can find your stuff. We'll post links and everything too, but go ahead and tell them where they can find you. It's
DJ Jamie Detroit. It's just everything. DJ Jamie Detroit, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. DJJamieDetroit.com. And DJJamieDetroit.com is it's got links to the Man Cave, Animal Talk, Podcast Your Voice, Detroit City of Champions. So DJJamieDetroit.com, and then same thing on all the socials.
He made it so easy for me. Everybody else I've got to run down and get like 12 different links, and Jamie's got it one-stop shopping.
That's part of my advice to podcasters when you're marketing. It's like, oh, this has an underscore, that has a dash, that don't just find the thing and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I want to thank you for joining me, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was truly a pleasure.